Welcome to this explainer. Let's just dive right in because what we're looking at today is, well, it's literally the foundation of the modern world. The global monetary system we use every single day, the way money flows across borders, the way international business is done. It didn't just magically evolve on its own, right? It was built on purpose. It was a deliberately constructed architecture born out of the absolute chaos of two world wars and the devastating economic instability of the Great Depression. Nations realized they had to step up and build something entirely new.
So think about this. Why does a simple piece of paper hold the power to run the world? Seriously, it's a massive question. The cash in your wallet right now, or those digital digits sitting in your bank account, the reason they actually mean anything traces back to one specific, incredibly high-stakes meeting in the summer of 1944. Today, we're going to unpack exactly how that happened step by step.
And that journey takes us right here, July 1944. Picture this. The world is still at war. Factories are smoking, but meanwhile, delegates are gathering at this peaceful grand resort, the Mount Washington Hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. They were there to proactively build a brand new post-war economy. They knew they had to avoid the, beggar thy neighbor mistakes of the past, those competitive currency devaluations and aggressive trade wars that just completely wrecked the global economy between the world wars. They desperately needed a fresh start. Section 1. The Blueprint Designing Global Stability. At Bretton Woods, these folks were effectively designing a safe global economy from the ground up. They were officially moving dominance away from the British pound, which had kind of ruled the roost for a long time, and setting up a totally new anchor. And the sheer scale of this agreement, absolutely staggering. 44 delegates from 44 allied nations had to collectively agree on this massive shift. I mean, think about trying to get 44 nations to agree on the rules of global finance today. Most of us can't even get 4 friends to agree on where to get dinner, right? But they actually pulled it off, and they made the US dollar the absolute center of international finance. So how did this massive blueprint actually work? Well, it was basically a 2-step process. Step 1, participating countries pegged their currency to the US dollar. Step 2, the US dollar is pegged to gold. Let's break down the economic logic here, because it really was a brilliant, delicate balancing act. To make global trade work, countries needed stable exchange rates. You absolutely need to know what you're going to get paid. But they also desperately needed flexibility at home to manage things like unemployment. So the solution they landed on was this highly specific system of fixed but adjustable exchange rates. And the anchor holding this entire global system together, it rested on one highly specific number: $35. The dollar was pegged to gold at a strict, fixed rate of exactly $35 an ounce. When you stop and really think about it, it's kind of wild. The entire modern global economy was constructed to rest entirely on the value of a shiny yellow metal dug out of the dirt. But just like that, the US dollar effectively replaced gold as the primary reference point for global value everywhere. And in doing so, it turned the United States into the world's banker. Section 2. The Institutions. Building Global Safety Nets. Now, a blueprint is really just a piece of paper without enforcement, right? To make this new dollar-gold hybrid system actually survive in the real world, they had to institutionalize international cooperation. So they built 2 foundational pillars, and the contrast between them is absolutely crucial to understanding how our world works today. On one side, you have the International Monetary Fund, or IMF. Their core mission? Short-term stability. If a country ran out of foreign currency and couldn't pay for essential imports, the IMF was the safety net to stabilize their exchange rate. On the other side, we have the World Bank. Their focus was totally different: long-term development. They provided the heavy-lifting financing needed to physically rebuild war-torn economies and support major projects in lower-income regions. Together, these two marked a massive, decisive shift toward proactive global economic governance. Section 3. The flaw in the system, the gold constraint. So for decades, the absolute cornerstone of Bretton Woods was this dollar-gold convertibility. The dollar was the medium of exchange, sure, but physical gold provided the ultimate guarantee of confidence. Any foreign central bank could theoretically swap their dollars for US gold at that fixed $35 rate. But there was a massive structural tension hiding just beneath the surface. It actually has a formal name: the Triffin Dilemma. The crucial thing to understand here is the conflict between a nation's domestic monetary policy and its role as the global reserve currency provider. Basically, for the world economy to grow and trade to flow, it needed cash, it needed liquidity. And to provide that liquidity, the US had to run constant trade deficits, essentially pumping more and more dollars out into the world. It was a built-in trap.
And this fatal flaw was becoming obvious in real time. The sheer amount of US dollars circulating globally had grown to vastly outnumber the physical gold actually sitting in US vaults. As that stack of global dollars grew infinitely higher than the finite gold bars backing them up, well, global skepticism inevitably started to rise. I mean, the math simply did not add up. The guarantee was fast becoming a mathematical impossibility. Starting with the optimism of the 1944 Bretton Woods Agreement, things seemed pretty stable. But as we move into the late 1960s, things get incredibly turbulent. You've got rising domestic inflation and the massive draining costs of the Vietnam War flooding even more dollars into the global system. By the time we hit 1971, those economic pressures had pushed the credibility of the entire Bretton Woods system to its absolute structural breaking point.
Section 4. The Break and Rebirth. The Nixon Shock. The global economic rules just couldn't bend anymore to accommodate the pressure. They had to be completely rewritten. August 15, 1971, the financial world changed forever. In a dramatic event famously known as the Nixon Shock, President Richard Nixon interrupted popular Sunday night television. Yes, he actually preempted Bonanza for this, to announce he was officially suspending the dollar's convertibility into gold. Just imagine sitting in your living room and suddenly learning the fundamental basis of world money had just been canceled. Just like that, the physical chain linking the paper dollar to a gold bar was completely severed. It marked the definitive, indisputable end of the Bretton Woods era. So, what replaced it? Well, we transitioned to a fiat currency system. This is a financial system where money is not tied to a physical commodity at all. Instead, it derives value entirely from collective trust and government authority. Really think about how profound that transformation is for a second. Almost overnight, money officially became an abstract concept, eventually paving the way for the digital code we largely use today, rather than a direct representation of physical metal in a vault somewhere.
Without gold, what actually gives our fiat system its power? It rests on four main pillars: government authority, legal tender laws, collective trust, and central bank regulation, like the Federal Reserve in the US. Now, under this system, central banks gained unprecedented flexibility. Suddenly, they could adjust the money supply to respond directly to recessions or crises without the strict constraint of gold reserves holding them back. But, and this is super vital to understand, it placed a massive, unprecedented burden on institutional credibility. The institutions alone now carry the immense responsibility of preventing inflation and maintaining the actual value of the fiat money in your pocket.
Section 5. The Legacy of the Dollar. Looking back at this historical shift from gold to fiat really helps us understand the reality of our highly integrated modern financial world today. There's a powerful quote from our source material that frames this perfectly. The birth of the US dollar system transformed the nature of money from a physical asset into a social contract. Even though the gold link is completely gone, the US dollar remains the world's primary reserve currency today. But it doesn't hold that dominant spot because of gold bars in a vault. It holds it purely because of economic strength, policy discipline, and ultimately a global social contract of trust built by those institutions created all the way back at Bretton Woods. And that leaves us with one final, incredibly provocative question to ponder today. If modern money relies entirely on institutional credibility and collective trust, well, what happens when that trust is tested? It's a fascinating look into the sheer power and perhaps the hidden fragility of the fiat system we all live inside today. I hope this explainer gave you a solid, structured understanding of exactly how our monetary system was deliberately built and how it dramatically shifted over time. Thanks so much for joining me. Keep asking the big questions, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.